I'm doing awesome. Thank you so much for having me on, man. I really appreciate this. Yeah, he's one of my co-authors with the Try Not to Die series. He thought this would be perfect. Yeah, so with that one, it's young adult. It's similar to the choose your own adventure stories that I grew up on as a kid. I used to love those things where every couple pages you have to pick what happens. In those books, there were multiple paths and your story could change. In my series, there's about 24, 25 different choices, but if you choose wrong, you die. So sometimes you have to choose from three choices. Only one of them you'll live. The other two are death scenes. So these things are full of death, and I'm co-writing them with different people. So I decided it was really hard to commit to doing it because I have so much of my other stuff I want to work on. I write other fiction and nonfiction, but I was like, okay, I could make this into a major series. So right now we only have 4 books out, but there are another 16 at least that I have contracts for that are in the works. Evan's working on a dark fairy tale, which is really funny. It's more on the lighter side of things. John Palisano, the Horror Writers Association president who did Try Not to Die in the Pandemic with me. Right now, he just gave me back Try Not to Die in the Wild West. So that's what I'm working on. Working on Try Not to Die at Death Fest, like a big heavy metal concert. We have a writer in Canada, Caitlin Marceau. She is doing Try Not to Die at summer camp, which is about werewolves set in Canada. I'm trying to meet, I'm doing one with a writer in Germany. We talk every Sunday. When I went to the Frankfurt Book Messe this past year, I was able to meet with him. We actually went to the location that we're writing about. It's right on the Rhine River, this little castle. So we're doing Try Not to Die on the Rhine, and it's exploring Germany's legendary creatures. So just a lot of different things, a lot of different places. The really cool thing about this is I could not write these stories by myself. I couldn't write Evan's dark fairy tale because I don't really read fairy tales, and it's not something that, I would do. But I could tell him like, oh yeah, dude, that's an awesome setup. How about this, and this? He's given me his story. And with him, that process is a little different because I'm saying, okay, why don't we cut it here, here, and here? Let's put the death scenes here and here. How about if he does this? Then let's change this. Certain books I don't have much influence on. Try Not to Die in the Wizard's Tower. My friend Sage, he pretty much wrote that entire thing. I was more of an editor. I didn't have that much impact. But then Try Not to Die in Brightside, that was based off of one of my novels. I almost did all of the writing, but I had my co-author Donna, give me this perspective of who is this female, the 16-year-old female, who is she, what is she about? So she developed that whole character that helped shape the story. So yeah, it's interesting to figure out what the process is going to be like with each person, because I'm very laid back, I'm very casual. I'm telling them, hey, I understand life comes up. The pandemic put so many of our books way back. So I have friends that probably won't get their book done for another 2 or 3 years, but I tell them, I'm like, that's totally cool because I have all these other authors that are, sending me stuff all the time. So yeah, I'm excited. So really in about 5 years, legitimately, I should have 20 books in the series. So I'm excited about that. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. It I, I just I try to figure out, and it depends with certain authors. it's a lot easier because then then the world is open. Then they have an idea of what tropes are out there. They probably have an idea of what they like to write already. But for example, I have another friend, my friend Walter. He hasn't written before. He thought he was going to write about he has some Indian heritage, Native American heritage, and he was going to write about a graveyard, and so I had him come over and we were sitting. I'm like, okay. I was like, watch, in 2 hours we could figure out your whole story. I said, but let's talk about, let's see if you really feel comfortable about this, if you want this. In the course of our conversation, he brought up his high school. He went to high school in Watts, out here in California. Terrible area during, I think, the 80s, when there were all these race riots, and he got stabbed, and like his brother was a gang member, and it was crazy. I was like, dude, I said, that's the book right there. I said, let's write that. Let me just go into your mind. Let's pull out this story. I'm going to tell you, yeah, that scene should be there. Let's do this. How about this? How did you feel here? And so it's really, the doors open. Try Not to Die Super High. My friend Steve Montgomery, he was a UFC fighter, Ultimate Championship fighter. He decided to write one about this guy who's a sharpshooter. He loves guns. He does a lot of competitive shooting. So he did about this guy, and his friends accidentally give him, or not accidentally, but he takes some drugs, gets peer pressured into it, and now he's dealing with like these zombies while he's high, but he's also a really good shooter. It's like, it's not a book I would have came up with, but I also believe if the reader cares about the characters, then it doesn't matter what these characters are really doing. I was like, so for me, plot is fun. I love plotting out books, but you need to like the character. You need to believe the character. Yeah, as long as things are believable. If someone could go, even if it's a completely fantastic world, or sci-fi world, or whatever it is, I want it to be believable. I think so. Yeah. You know, yeah, no, yeah, I think, I mean, and I think that's, 100% that's what I do. I try to bring in any experience, even if I didn't live that moment. I haven't killed someone, but I've been in fights, or I've been scared. How many times have I been fearful of my life, or how many times have I been so embarrassed? It's like, you have to go to those moments. And in my book, 25 Perfect Days, which is dystopian, I looked at all these real world events of all the things that the governments around the world have done. And then I was like, okay, let's just exaggerate them a little bit and put them in the future. It's like, but most of those things are based off of real ideas, or things that have happened in the past. And I think it's good to explore history. I don't want to look at current events at all. But yeah, in fact, I try to stay away from the news. It's terrible, especially here. Yeah, yeah, it was it was always good, because it was always with a friend. Even John Palisano, even though him and I were not friends prior to me reaching out to him. Like that was at the start of the pandemic. He had just lost some work. He was able to take on a new job. And so I was like, okay, how about this? And then he just cranked out that book. You know, every collaboration, I think because I go in with the contract and just saying, hey, look, I have I think it's a very friendly contract for other authors. Like I'm not trying to make money off of anyone. I want us both to rise up. I have enough of my other books to where I don't care even about making money off of Try Not to Die, because if Try Not to Die does well, then my other books will do well. But the process has been awesome. Like with Evan, yeah, he just sends me what he has. I send him my notes and I tell him, look, I'm not your editor. I'm not your boss. I am your co-author. This is your story. I'm trying to pull the ideas out, put it into my format. These are suggestions. You know, take these suggestions. Mhm. There's 4 out right now, but about another, yeah, about 16 more. So it should be about 20. Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. So it's just a matter. Yeah, yeah. I think just having that confidence. And for example, one that I'm really excited about is with Duncan Ralston, who wrote Womb, The Midwives. Gross Out is his latest one. His book Womb has been taken off. But I wrote to him maybe 6 months ago. I saw that we had lots of the same fans. And I asked him if he'd want to do a book set in his world of Ghostland. It's a 3-book trilogy. It's awesome. I just finished book 1, but with his book, um, I was like, he told me what his general plot idea was. I'm like, go for it, dude. Like I love his writing style. He's written a trilogy. He knows his characters better than anything. He knows this world better than anyone. So he's going to do an amazing job. And I'm just going to come in and be like, okay, yeah, let's just put it here. Let's put it there. He's actually going to send me his what he has right now, because he said he wanted to make sure that he was headed in the right direction. But I was like, I know he is, and if he's not, then it's an easy redirect. So yeah, the process it's been a lot of fun. I haven't had any problems. That was one of my concerns. One of my concerns was like, man, I don't want there to ever be a fight about a contract. I don't want there to be a fight about money. I don't want to disappoint anyone, because I'm an indie author. I'm an indie publisher. I'm doing all this myself. So in addition to trying to write and trying to do the podcast and trying to, take care of my family, I'm a stay-at-home dad. I got to cook dinner, all these other things. I'm also trying to do the marketing. I'm, doing everything. So, it. Mhm. Yeah, yeah. It's if you want to be successful, it's 100% on you, because no one else cares. No one else is going to be close to as invested as you will be in your own career. So for the longest time, because my wife is a lawyer, I would never wrote to make money. In fact, I didn't care about it. But then I realized, like, no, but I do want to be successful. I want to be well read. I do want to make money, because then I could do a lot of great stuff with it. But for the longest time, I was just saying, I don't need to do marketing. I don't want to do marketing. I just want to create. I don't need the money. But I don't know, maybe that was 5 or 6 years into it. And I was like, no, I need to take this seriously, especially the last couple of years. I've been getting more into marketing, more into trying to understand. I've been spending more time on my newsletter. I've been building up a newsletter. And again, that is between the podcast and the newsletter, that's a good chunk of time that is not being used for writing. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's it's sending off messages to different podcasts and saying, hey, can you do this? Like, I'd be on yours. Can you be on mine? And there's a lot of stuff in the background, but it really helps me though, because I've had that conversation with myself. Like, do I keep up the podcast? Do I keep up the newsletter? Both take a good amount of time, but I understand the importance of the newsletter and getting it out. And I love that. I love that people actually open it and read my emails. That always blows my mind. But with a podcast, it helps me get my thoughts around my business. Like, okay, not only am I talking about what's going on mentally, with brain health stuff, like either depression or anxiety or whatever I might be dealing with my family. Like, we had COVID here 2 weeks ago, and that was interesting. And how did that affect my creativity? And but it just helps me get my thoughts straight. And then also, like, okay, what am I working on? What do I need to work on next week? What do I work on this week? And so I get all my thoughts together on that on Thursdays and Fridays, and I do it. And then after that, I can be creative again. But it's like, okay, I set aside certain times for certain things, and it's not all creating. Sometimes I would love just to create, because I know I have at least 15 years of work ahead of me, if I don't have any new ideas. And so I was like, okay, I would love just to create, but this is also important. And I love connecting with people. I love connecting, with, if I have a guest on, or if I'm a guest, I love connecting with that person. And the newsletter is like, no, I'm really writing to my readers. And lots of times they're writing back. A connection I just made with one of those emails back and forth with a reader, it just convinced me to start learning Italian with my family. So I had been learning German, but this Italian lady wrote to me from Canada, and next thing you know, my wife and I are starting to learn Italian. And so it's just cool how these things happen. And that I thought I was too, and I won't ever be proficient at German, but I was able to go there and talk to people and greet people and have a good time. And I've translated, well, I've had other people translate my books into German. Um, but now, so I didn't think I could learn another language. I realized how important it is, how good it is for your brain when I started doing research on my traumatic brain injury book. That's the real reason I started doing a language. But now I'm at the point where it's like, oh no, I want to. This is kind of fun. So instead of playing my game on my phone, something that's just gonna kind of numb my mind, I was like, I'll spend 15 minutes learning something. I know it's working my brain, which is awesome. And I'm learning something about the culture or whatever else. So I was like, okay, that'd be cool to do maybe a new language every couple of years. Yeah. 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 Yeah, yeah. No, it's an interesting process. I picked up that. I also picked up guitar. I didn't think I had any musical ability, and I'm not very good at it. But again, it's one of those things like, if I pick, maybe this week, I'll 3 different days this week, I'll play for 15 or 20 minutes, and it'll be relaxing. It'll work my brain a little bit, and just a positive thing, and fun. Mhm. Yeah. Right. And that's, yeah. Mm. I I think a lot of it might be, and this has happened when I've been in jujitsu too, where so much of it is hesitations like how are they going to view me, coming in as an old guy doing this, or what are people going to think? How are they viewing me? How are they going to treat me? But yeah, if you just go in and you just do it and you don't care. But honestly, with the language and the guitar, I never went to personal lessons because being too embarrassed. Is like, okay, it's okay to play guitar here where I sound awful, but if I'm doing it in front of someone else, then yeah, maybe I won't. So I probably have hesitated on doing that because of just that fear. Another thing I've seen with that I learned through interviewing all these MMA fighters for Unlocking a Cage was so many high level people like black belts. If you get your black belt in jiu-jitsu, you it's very rare. You don't see too many black belts in jiu-jitsu starting kickboxing as a beginner, because they went from this high level of being very, very competent to being at the very, very bottom where they don't have this respect, they don't have this ability. And so I think it's hard for people, hard for adults to try new things. They might think that they don't have the ability or they don't have the time or whatever else, but it is, you have to make time for yourself. You had asked something about if I make time for myself. I'm very selfish, because if I don't take care of myself, if I don't spend time on myself, then I'll be a mess. I won't be good for my family. I won't be creative. If I'm not, I actually had to do hypnosis this year to restructure my thought process, because I would feel guilty when I would go lift weights and walk and do exercise with my friend at 8 o'clock in the morning, because right after I drop off the kids, my brain is telling me, go home, be productive, and write something. Go write a story, go write a book, go write. You have so much to do. Go work. Don't go and do yoga and sit there and breathe and waste, an hour and a half of time. So I actually did hypnosis to, I said, no, this is the message I rewired was, this is helping me be productive. This is a form of productivity. Me working out and doing yoga and or walking or whatever exercise, it's good for my mental health. I need it. It's going to help me be more creative, a better husband, better father. I need to do it. And now after that, I was like, now that's part of my routine and I'm probably way better for it. Mhm. Oof. Mhm. Mhm. I agree. Um, I've I've had a lot of battles with myself over writing and wanting to completely give up and throw it all away. Um, and that's something maybe we could warn early writers too. I've had a couple that and I know the feeling is like you just released the book, you think it's everyone's gonna love it, it's gonna do awesome, and then all of a sudden you realize that no one cares, not even your friends, super depressing, hardly any reviews. But yeah, you have to know whether or not you want to do it, and you just have to go. I do a lot of self-reflection. I think that's super important to take the time to figure out, like, okay, what do I want to do? What's going on in my brain? If you're not taking the time to do that, yeah, you're probably missing out on a lot of stuff. But I think a lot of writers, I think a lot of creators, they do spend a lot of time in their head. So I think they're probably more self-reflective than the majority of others. I don't know. Hmm. Hmm. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It's. Mhm. Sorry. All right. Yeah. I would. I think the. I think one of the biggest barriers is self-doubt. Probably. I know for me, I always doubted myself. I really doubted myself. I didn't think I was smart enough. I didn't go. I never took classes. Hold on, Kitty. Sorry about that. I never took classes on how to write. It wasn't until I was trying to be a writer that I actually went to a mentor and all this other stuff. But I didn't go to college to write, or I didn't take really. I never focused on. So I didn't think I had that ability, and I always thought I wasn't very smart. Um, so I think if you just tell yourself, like, yeah, you know, that you have the ability, that a lot of people don't think they can, or they want to be an instant success, but just figure out why you're writing. You need to want to write for yourself. I think you can't just go in and be like, okay, I want to have a book. It's like, well, no, it's like yeah, something for me. It's just it's a passion. I need to do it. I want to get it out there. I have all these stories. I want to share them. Um, you have to give it time. I think a lot of people think you have to find out how you work. This is one of the things I show my son and my daughter all the time. I showed them all the red marks on my writing, right? And just how a story starts. I'm like, look, I was like, all I need to know is the beginning, the middle, and the end. And then after that, I'm going to go another level, and I'm going to bring that beginning. I'm going to chop that into three sections: the beginning, middle, end of that. And then I'm going to do that to a paragraph even, or that first section of that chapter. I said, if you just do that, and then you just add a line or two every time to what you know, and you just keep going down and you make it bigger and bigger. So instead of looking at because I would never just try to write a story straight out, because you might get halfway down the page and realize that the start sucks and you don't know where you're going next. But if you start just laying everything out, and then I'll go through that, whatever, that's maybe my first pass on these 27 chapters is only 2,000 words. Maybe I don't know anything about those three chapters, and maybe they're going to be moved somewhere else. But if I just start laying down these ideas, then everything just starts blooming and fleshing out. And before you know, it's like, okay, yeah, now I see that I have a book here. Like, now it's taking a book format. Now I can do chapter one, or I'm just only going to do a rough draft of it, because then I'm going to go here. So I tell people to write the parts that they know, the stuff that they see. I think a good way to increase creativity is making sure that you are getting some kind of exercise by working the mind in other ways, but then also finding out how you create best too. Like, do you need silence? Do you need music? Do you need, because I can't be in a place where there's any kind of interruption. I had to have this talk with my wife and kids several times saying, hey, I've got this movie going on in my head right now. if you guys come in and open the door, ask me a question, I was like, that movie's gone. Maybe it's going to take me 10 minutes to get back into it. And also, what is going on in your brain? If you are watching traumatic stuff like the shooting that just happened last week, if I was watching that, if I'm feeling that, if I have this fear for my kids, if I'm feeling angst and all this other stuff, I'm not going to be creative. It's not going to happen. So you really have to set yourself up for success. See what helps you. Maybe it's binaural beats and just have maybe that music, or maybe it's nice relaxing music. Sometimes like I'll listen to classical music. For certain things, if I'm writing like a really, really dark thing, I might have on my German heavy metal. I've been listening to a lot of that. So you just have to figure out what's going to help you set yourself up for success and believe in yourself, and just go for it. Yeah, yeah. I had a short story get transformed because it was actually a scene in a book because of the lyrics, and I didn't even realize it, but it transformed this into this scary scene, and it wasn't supposed to be a scary scene, but it was just because of that background music and the lyrics that were going on. And that's one reason why I do use the German music, because my brain's not catching it. I'm not really hearing all the lyrics. It might be real passive, but yes. So you have to be careful of what you are ingesting, and what you're watching. I don't watch a lot of horror. I don't watch a lot of other stuff. Like, I already have all these visions in my head. I was like, I don't need to add more to it. And I want my stuff to be as original as possible. That said, like, nothing's going to be completely original, because like, how many movies have I seen? Mhm. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, no, I want everyone to share my excerpts. Like, please, like, everyone in the world, please share it. I think well, I think those people are, yeah. uh I think there's a lot of people that want to be a victim, and they get power. That's just their identity, that's how they identify. But there is something to that. In my book, the traumatic brain injury book, I talk about different techniques, and one of them is writing. So, and the multiple, the different ways of writing, how they can help, whether it's just a list and it's different stuff I accomplished today, or it's nonfiction and where you're writing about what you're dealing with. Like me writing about going through depression and scaring my wife and my rage, and looking at all these things that I didn't want to share, that were not fun to share, that well, I was crying when I'm writing them down, and I'm like, fuck, should I put this in here or not? That helped. That was a huge catharsis. That helped me deal with it and to explore it. Now, when in my characters, I try to do the same thing. In Ain't No Messiah, the second coming to Christ or possible second coming to Christ, like that, I really explore religion and my, how I felt about religion and also sexuality. In my new one, I'm doing an extreme horror novel right now, the most extreme thing I've done. And I'm really questioning a lot of it, but I think it's going to be good for me. And a lot of it is, this is going to be, they have the most sex stuff in it, which makes me very uncomfortable. But I was like, I know it's going to help me. Like, I know it's going to be good for me. It's stuff that I need to work out. And, and it's like, okay, do I keep it? Do I not keep it? I was like, no, I made my mind up a long time ago. Like, whatever story comes to me, like that's the story that's being written. I'm not going to tone it down because some people might say it's a trigger or, whatever else. Like if people don't like it, they don't like it. If anyone wants to cancel me, go ahead and cancel me. But I want, yeah, yeah, no, no. Mm, yeah, really, I didn't. Right. Mhm. Yeah, yeah. It's a, mhm. Yeah, very. I think it's is incredibly important. You have to be honest with yourself, whether, I don't know. Yeah, otherwise you're not going to create something unique and true. And I wouldn't be happy if I wrote something that, I don't know. I just won't do it. So I was like, no, I only want to write things that I'm comfortable with, that I'm confident with, that I want to write. If readers like it, cool. If they don't, whatever. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I thought it was going to be much, much easier. In fact, I had a podcast prior to the one I have now. So the one I have now is Vicious Whispers, like 165 episodes. I'm happy that I've been able to stay consistent with it, despite, so many times where like, there's a waste of time, no one's listening. Why am I doing it? Blah, blah, blah. But I had one, um, it's pretty much just a look into my life. So I share, when I was working on my traumatic brain injury book, I was talking about that a lot. I was talking about all my experiences there. I try to be vulnerable. I let people know, I was like, yeah, I deal with this, I deal with that, I deal with this. This is how I deal with it. I think the more we share our own mental health or brain health issues, I think it helps others. So some of it is that, I'll talk about the life at home, what I'm working on, what co-authors are doing. I'll review books. And at the end of each episode, I'll share either a short story, one of my short stories, or a chapter of the book. Like sometimes I'll go through, I'll spend 20 weeks in a row just sharing one chapter of a book. So that way they could hear the whole thing like that. So part of it is, I want to lure people in and then hook them with the story at the end, and then hopefully they'll like it and want to keep listening. And so, but it's been fun. It's been good. I and being such an introvert and being so I had such low self-esteem. I didn't think anyone was going to watch. It was so hard to get in front of a camera. But like you're saying earlier, I think it's just, you put in the work, you do it. It's a repetition, it's the practice, it's the grinding, whether it's working on a book and I'm doing a little bit every day, adding on to it, or if it's a podcast where you're doing one every week and you're find things to make it a little bit better, fine tune it. Yeah, it's a cool process. Like I just made I don't know why I hadn't done it. I had a cool trailer, like just the audio part, but I was like, let's make some cool images to go with this. And so now I had my assistant just gave me a really cool thing. Now I can advertise it. Now I can really start, growing the podcast. And yeah, and um, probably Spotify. I do it off of Podbean. I think most of my listeners are either Apple or Spotify. And it's also cool to see is like, okay, yeah, there's people from around the world too. And so that's pretty interesting. That's pretty cool. But my focus now, and this is something that I just did with my Amazon page. I took a look at it. I realized like, man, like the Amazon Author Central page. I was like, I don't have much about my podcast. It's like you have to read through all my bio, and it's at the bottom of my podcast, and just this little thing like, oh, also a podcast host, check it out here. So I was like, no, I want to direct people to my podcast now. Before it was just like a little side thing I do, but I was like, no, I was like, if I get people on my site on my podcast, then they hopefully they'll like me. They're either going to like me or they're going to hate me. That's like with my personality, and I'm cool with that. I'd much rather have that, right? No, yeah, yeah, no, no, yeah. Mhm. I think by sharing, I think sharing the positives and how you deal with it. So if I'm just saying, oh, I'm so depressed, I can't even write right now, and I'm just going to curl up in a ball, and here, everyone, give me some love, give me some pity. I was like, no, I was like, I'm not going to do that. I'm like, man, yesterday was tough, but here, that's why I went outside and I did yoga in the rain, and it cleared me up, and now I'm ready to do it. Or and just flipping like I try to post as much positive stuff as possible. Even in I have a Facebook group called Dark and Disturbing Fear-Filled Fiction. It's pretty irreverent, lots of violence and stuff like that. But even that's generally really positive. We never have any negative people in there. Just a friendly, fun, irreverent group of people. And but I'm finding by being authentic, by being who I truly am, I think that's how I am now finding like, okay, these are my fans. These are the kind of people that I want to hang out with. These are the kind of people I want to interact with. I won't interact with people I don't want to. So yeah, I'm not going to try to please everyone. If people like my stuff, cool. If not, cool. There's certain books that are awesome books that I just don't like. Like it's just not for me. So that's why I never get offended if someone doesn't like me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No. Yeah, that's a huge, like, it makes me sad about society. So much of, like, there's tons of great stuff about social media, and you can meet, like, make so many great connections, but there's just so much of an ugly side. So much of society is like, just I don't want any part of it. But yeah, right. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, it's that was a big thing. I didn't want to be seen on camera. Hated my voice. I've always hated my voice. I think a lot of people have that, but I mm, that makes sense. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because it that's me. Yeah, so even just that. So trying to do a podcast, if you hate your own voice and you record it and you listen to it, you're like, oh my God, I don't want to put that out there. Or I say so much, or I say, so much, or all these different things. So yeah, there was a lot of reasons not to start it. In fact, I actually self-destructed my first one. It was starting to grow. I had 113 episodes. This is like in 2018. I was about to release Unlock in a Cage, and I went into a big depression. I shut down all social media. I closed the podcast without even like a final episode saying goodbye, and just went away for like 3 months. And then it took me a while to, like, do I want to start a new one? Do I but since I've started, I was like, I just been going. It's like, no, I do want to. I will do it, and so I'm going to continue doing it. It will grow. And that's the thing people need to see too. If you continue to do something, like, it's going to continue to rise. If I could continue to write books, unless they're complete garbage, my career will continue to expand. Same with the podcast, same with anything else. So same with playing guitar, or same with learning a language, or same, like, whatever you put into it, it will just get better. Mhm. I don't think I have. Instagram a bunch. So for sure, Instagram, I have bought a lot of cool things. Probably generic. Yeah. Yeah. But I buy most, especially like book related stuff. I'll only buy from people that I know, authors that I know, or someone that's been highly recommended to me. But yeah, lots of ads aren't that effective. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, just wait. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, no, I haven't done that. I do spend a lot of time, and this is another thing that authors might get sucked into is like Amazon advertising. If I want my books being read, like I got to advertise them. And but that's kind of a fun thing to do. It's kind of a nerdy thing to do. I took a course on it. I'm not an expert at it, but I'm okay at it, and I can see like, okay, if I keep playing with it, if I keep tweaking it, not only will I continue to sell books, but then I'll start making more of a profit selling these books. So, mhm, yeah. Mhm. Oh no. Yeah, they want you to and that was a really, yeah, oh, Facebook, I spent a lot of money blowing. I blew through so much Facebook money early on, until I took a couple courses. I'm like, oh, that's how I could be doing it. I could just be spending a couple dollars a day, and getting great results compared to just blowing, $20 or $30 on a post that no one saw and that no one bought anything from, or, so it was definitely a learning experience. But I encourage authors, especially indie authors, like take the time to do those kinds of courses, whether, find a good one, and do a good advertising course, a good marketing course, and it will definitely pay for itself. Oh yes, yes, yeah, yeah. No, no, you could get yeah, no, there's some great sources out there like Kindle Entrepreneur. They have so many free tools like Amazon description tool and all these other ones. Yeah, there's all kinds of cool stuff that you could find cheap. Yeah, I say just talk with other authors too. One thing I wanted to say this too. I made the mistake starting out where I would not talk with other authors, and I don't think I was looking at them necessarily as my competition, or if it's because I didn't feel like I was good enough to be with them or whatever it was. And like I was even a member of the Horror Writers Association and the Horror Writers of LA, their chapter in LA. And I went to like one or two things, but I never really connected, especially online. I wasn't connecting with authors. I was connecting with fans. But once I started connecting with other authors and started promoting their stuff and started, talking about their books, like that, not only did it feel good, um, but I was like, yeah, I was like, this is awesome. And now I'm helping him grow a little bit too, and him, and because he's got some awesome books and he's got awesome books and she's got awesome books. So that's been kind of cool to start actually trying to do that and to help build up other people and all rise together. I think that's important. Yeah. Yeah. Right. That's always been, what, that used to be in the back of my head. I used to always think, I need to get to a cabin, I need to get somewhere, I just need silence, I need a week, I need whatever. It's like, no, I don't. I need to have silence in this room, or whatever, but I don't need a new location. I could write anywhere. I take my pen and paper everywhere I go. So like I'm almost never without my yellow pad and paper. It's like even if it's 5 minutes, Yeah, and that's another thing authors really, especially young authors, like don't wait for time to open up. Make yourself time. And yeah, if I'm going to go wait for my son at school, I pick him up every day. So either I'm taking a book to read a little bit, or I'm taking my writing, and I tune everyone else out. I'll put some headphones, and then I'll just write for 20 minutes. That's 20 minutes more than I would have done. No, but I have a good friend who does that, and but now he leaves me alone. The other day, just 10 minutes yesterday, I was like, I saw him. I turned around when my son came out. I was like, "How long you been sitting there?" He's like, "10 minutes." He's like, "I didn't want to interrupt you." I was like, "Okay." So that's cool. So yeah, for the most part, people just leave me alone and don't talk about it. Yeah, that'd be awful. Right. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. So I have, and again, that's busy work. That's not being too creative. Some things you need to really focus on. And if I wanted to write something brand new, that's where it's like, okay, I'm probably gonna use some cannabis. I'm probably gonna have a lot of caffeine, go somewhere quiet. And like I love going into my sauna. I have an infrared sauna, and I'll just go in there for an hour because then I can't do anything else. Like either I just breathe and stretch or I write. So I like I force myself into this space, uncomfortable space. Is like, okay, either you create or you just sit here and you just wasted an hour. So, and it wouldn't even be a waste because honestly, breathing and stretching in a sauna for an hour is not a waste of time. It doesn't feel very productive, but I love being able to do both. Hmm. Yeah, the hypnosis. Um, I I didn't do that until after my traumatic brain injury book was over. So that, man, that completely transformed my life. I probably wouldn't be here talking to you if I hadn't gone through that whole journey and taking care of my brain because I because of fighting and everything else, I had a lot of traumatic brain injuries and it just messed up my hormones and everything was a mess. And now I forgot the question. Dang it. Oh, okay. So my friend, someone offered a free session. They were looking for people. This hypnotist had just moved, one of his friends. So she was offering free courses. I was like, I'd done hypnosis once before. I was like, I'll try it. Ended up being great. But it was for, I think I did it for dieting and for something else. It might have been for the getting my mind straight on the productivity. I think that's what those first sessions were. So I was really happy with that. But then I got back into contact with her. I recommended so many of my friends to her. One of my friends loved what she was doing. She started this new thing called HypnoFit, which is trauma release hypnosis. So it's like a 12-week session, but where they're going over each of these emotions. The first one was anger and looking at all these times in your life where you felt anger, looking at it as an adult, what lessons did you learn? And it was just this cool process. I didn't think the anger one was going to help me, but like I told her, so even after all this work that I did on my brain, after all this improvement, after all this therapy and everything else, I still have the potential to completely fucking ruin my life in a matter of seconds if someone does something small, like honks at me or whatever else. If I don't have, if I get triggered, so that has been a big fear of mine. Also because I worked in a prison, I worked in a juvenile correction facility. I was a bodyguard, a bouncer. I was in so many fights. Also, like whenever I'm going somewhere, like I've been trained for violence or hardwired for violence. So I'm always looking for someone that's going to say something. So yeah. So that's pretty much what that's what I was hoping we would be able to handle because with my frontal cortex, because of all the TBIs, it was severely under functioning. Now it's better, but so my emotional control is better. But because I never dealt with these underlying issues, I never dealt with my reactions stayed the same to these triggers, even though I have more capability. So going in there and doing the hypnosis, man, it was crazy. And but effective too, because like 2 weeks after I did the hypnosis, or 1 week after hypnosis, I had to go to a concert at the Hollywood Palladium. I've been in so many fights at that place, working there a long time ago, and then also going to shows and stuff in the mosh pit or whatever else. So I was really worried about it, but then I was able to go and just completely relax. I enjoyed it. I was able to watch my wife and daughter have a great time. I never once thought anyone was going to cause trouble. I wasn't looking for trouble. And so it was nice just to be able to kind of, feel like I could trust myself, because that's, that feeling that you can't trust yourself was really scary. So yeah, the hypnosis helped with that. I definitely feel like I am in a better place after finishing these 12 weeks. My daughter, she's doing it right now. She's doing it just for like confidence and and that's what I told her. I was like, man, I was like, this is like supercharging your brain. It's getting rid of all this other stuff. One of the first things we worked on was the negative voice in your head. My negative voice in my head since I've been little is, I'm a dumb shit. I am a dumb shit. It doesn't matter that I went to college, doesn't matter that I score great on brain games, doesn't matter, like all those things don't matter. It doesn't matter I've written books. I'm a dumb shit. I'm a dumb shit. I'm a dumb shit. So that's the voice that was always in my head pretty much most of my life. Hypnosis helped a lot with that too. So that was part of the initial, before the trauma release stuff, we were working on that. And it comes up occasionally now, maybe I'm playing a game and I lose and I'll say, oh, you're such an idiot. I'm like, oh, no, I'm not. And I'll actually say it all out. I'm like, I'm not an idiot. I was like, this is a dumb game. And I made a bad choice. No big deal. And I'll smile and I'll put it down. So instead of the old thing where I'm like, oh, you fucking idiot. And why are you even doing this? Why even waste your time playing it, and be mad? And then it's like, no. So now I'm in a completely different place than I was 3-4 years ago. I would have been dead, divorced, or in prison through the pandemic. There's no way I would have been able to stay together and be able to be this rock for my family through, this time and stuff. So I'm incredibly grateful. And yeah. Well, and they probably say, well, that's just who I am, right? That's just who I am. We're just angry. That's a man. A man is supposed to be angry. A man, that's a good reaction, right? Like, yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Oh yeah. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's, you have to know what you can take and what's best for you. I think a lot of people, they stay in jobs that they don't like because it's comfortable, because it'd be scary to leave, because they don't want to disappoint someone, because maybe they thought they were, it's just wrong to quit. But no, I was like, life's too short to do anything that you don't want. Like I tell my kids, I don't push my kids about college. I'm like, I push them like, hey, find something you really like. My daughter loves music. She's just graduated. Well, she's going to graduate from 8th grade in a couple of days, but like she's already in a band and she's just learn music on her own. And like, that's her passion. I was like, she's still going to do great in school and maybe she'll go to college. But I was like, no, find out what you want to do and do that, because you're going to be happy. You'll be fulfilled. Oh yeah. Really. Wow. Uh, well, that, yeah, no, right. Yeah, yeah, you don't want that. Hmm. I I think I think I was ashamed of it. I think I looked down on it. I thought I don't think I wanted to claim that I was a horror writer. As part of it is, I write multiple genres too, but horror was what I was first attracted to. Those were all the short stories I was writing. Even my dark fiction has lots of horror elements. So I absolutely love horror. But I do think that I probably was a little like, thinking it was lesser. It's not literature. It's not that fine literature that you're supposed to read and blah 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 blah. But I don't feel that way now. I was like, no, a good story is a good story. It doesn't matter what genre it's in. Like, just it has to be well written. And if you could take the reader on a journey, then that's awesome. You know what? I have I've been incredibly fortunate to not even be aware of any of this, to not be aware of any of the infighting amongst authors. Like I see a little bit of it on Twitter, but I'm barely even on there. Usually I'll post something, I'll see one or two friends, and then I'm out. That's how I am with lots of social media. So I don't see a lot of the infighting. I don't want to be part of it. Duncan Ralston's Gross Out was really good because it takes place at a horror convention, and there's people that are canceling other authors, and I highly recommend that book. I think if you're a horror fan, if you've been at horror conventions, you will love it. It's disgusting, incredibly violent, a lot of sexual stuff. It's extreme horror, but it is excellent. But he goes into that and takes a look at it. So even though I haven't been part of it, I haven't really seen it. Reading his book, I was like, okay, I get it. Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. I've been trying to get him up. Smart. Yeah, I think the fine print. Yeah. Yeah, this is the fine print from Untold Mayhem, I believe. Oh, awesome. Thank you. I'm sorry. One more time. Oh, the reader. Yeah, oh, the narrator. Yeah, I believe it was Yvonne. Yeah, they did an amazing job. That was my first multicast. I think there were eight or so different narrators on that one. So each narrator got to do like two or three different stories, and that was cool having a female narrator for some of them, a male narrator for other ones. But I was really happy with how it turned out. Mhm. I would say I've gone different ways with my first book, Brightside. I tried recording it myself, and it was a long process, and it left me with something that I wasn't able to use. And so I ended up going and I hired someone on ACX, paid him, I forget how much, maybe that was 150 an hour. And then I thought he did a good job. But every time I've done it, I'm looking a little bit better. I'm realizing the sound quality wasn't as good on those first ones. And that if you are paying a little bit more, you're probably going to get a better narrator. I put all of my stuff on ACX, which is Audible site. That's generally where I'll find a narrator. I don't do exclusive with them anymore, because that way, as soon as I get those files from Audible, I can take them and put them on Findaway, and then that's going to take it into Chirp and make it available for libraries and everything else. And you could play with the prices there. So I think, I would highly suggest, and maybe there's some other sites, but that's what I do. I do like Audible just to have it on there and to find the narrator, and then on Findaway, that's where it's distributed to all these other places. And I could do sales, and like right now I have I think one or two audiobooks right now are 99 cents. So I'm going to try to always run something. And then like with the multicast, I wasn't sure. That cost me a little bit more because I had to pay the producer who was putting it all together and hiring these people. But I thought it was worth the extra cost. Maybe that was an extra 25 or $50 per hour, maybe a couple extra hundred altogether. So it definitely is a little bit of a cost. You could do it yourself. You could get rent a studio or something like that. I almost did that for my last one. But again, I'm glad I didn't, because the guy that I hired did a much better job. It's only a 4-hour audiobook, but so the cost it didn't cost me that much, but it would have taken me a lot of time. It wouldn't have been as good. I wouldn't have sounded as professional. So some people think authors, they might like the author to narrate their work, but I know for me, it's like, okay, that's not my specialty. My ego might get in the way, and I might want to do it, or I might want to save some money. But now it's like, no, I want to have a better product. I don't want to be embarrassed of my products. I don't want to be embarrassed of my books. There's some stuff that I did early on where it's like, I wish I could take that back and redo it, and certain ones that I have redone, like I've redone some covers, the Try Not to Dies, I redesigned them after the second book. And yeah, so yes, yes, yeah. I think whatever works for you. You're ingesting a story. You're using your imagination. Some people have trouble reading. Some people don't like reading. Some people are driving all day and they can't read. But they can put that audiobook on. They can still experience this. So I want to get a story to someone. I don't care how they get it. I don't care if they watch it or if they listen to it or if they read it. I want them to get my ideas. So whether it's through audio or video or just written, I think, yeah, to me, it's all legitimate. It's all the same, not cheating. No, this has been fun. That's awesome. Yeah, no, no, for sure. Awesome. Yeah, yeah, everything.